Sukha, Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph. This Mishnah is an introduction to the following four Mishnahs, which goes into detail about all the points raised in this Mishnah. Lulav va'arova shisha v'shiva. The mitzvah of taking the Arba Minim, and the mitzvah of the arova taken around the Mizbeach at the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Shisha v'shiva. Some years it will be done, the mitzvahs would be performed on 6 days, and some years 7 days, depending on which day of Sukkot was Shabbos. More about this in the coming Mishnayos. The Sukkot being 7 days, it would depend on which day of Sukkot was Shabbos. So we'll see how many days these mitzvahs were performed. Let me start that again. Start again. Sukha, Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph. This Mishnah is an introduction to the following four Mishnahs, which go into detail about all the points raised in this Mishnah. Sukkot being 7 days, every year would depend on which day of Sukkot was Shabbos, as we'll see. Lulav va'arova shisha v'shiva. The mitzvah of Arba Minim, and also the mitzvah of arova, taking the arova around the Mizbeach at the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Some years it was performed for 6 days, and some years these two mitzvahs were performed for the 7 days. Ha-Hallel v'ha-Simcha shmoina. The mitzvah of reciting Hallel, completing Hallel, was for 8 days. We're talking here about Eretz Yisrael. In Chutz La'aretz, of course, there will be a 9th day, being Simchas Torah, but in Eretz Yisrael, the mitzvah of reciting full Hallel was on 8 days. Says the Bartanura, this is different to Pesach. Sukkot, every single day of Sukkot, full Hallel is said. Explains the Bartanura, the days of Sukkot, the korbanos that are brought on Sukkot, every day a different number of porim, of oxen, are brought. And therefore, because of that, every day is considered a separate Yom Tov, and therefore warrants full Hallel. Also, the mitzvah of Simcha was 8 days. What does this mean, the mitzvah of Simcha in particular? Says the Bartanura, Le'echol bosa shlomim bizman hamikdash, eating peace offerings at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, and this is learned from Psukim. Sukkah v'nisuchamayim shiva. The mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah, and nisuchamayim, which was the water libation, the water that was poured on the Mizbeach at the time of the Tomid, the continual offering in the morning. Both these mitzvahs were performed all 7 days of Sukkot. The Mishnah concludes, V'hecholil chamisha v'shisha. The cholil, the flute, this refers to the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, the jubilation, the dancing, the musical instruments that were played with that. This was a particular mitzvah for Sukkot, and it was done l'kovod, in honor of the Beis Hashoeva, the drawing of the water and the water libation. As the Tiferes Yisrael explains, every night of Chol HaMoed, not Shabbos and not Yom Tov, after the Tomid was brought in the afternoon until the morning, there would be the dancing, the musical instruments, until the morning, until they would go out to draw the water for the simchas, for the water libation, for the Nisach HaMayim. That mitzvah was done 5 or 6 days, again depending on the year and exactly when Shabbos was going to be out of the days of Sukkot. The Mishnah does say Hecholil, the flute, and in fact they played lots of different musical instruments. And the Bartanur explains the first Mishnah of the following parak, the 5th parak. He says, Harbe minei zema hoyusham. There were lots of different instruments played at the Simchas Beis HaShoeva. Why is it called the Cholil, the flute? Va'al shem shecholil koiloi nishma yosem minu acherim. Because of the high pitch of the flute, this could be heard above all the rest of the instruments, and therefore it's called Hecholil. Nikru kulam al shemai. The instruments, the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, is called the Cholil, the flute, because that instrument was above the rest, but in fact it refers to the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, in particularly the musical instruments, that could be played on 5 or 6 days, depending on how the year fell and when exactly Shabbos was over the Sukkot period. That concludes the Mishnah.